So our idea of purity and our concept of purity is starting to shape up, and it kind of reminds me of a story when I was younger. I have a brother. His name's Tyler, and like most kids, we had a playtime where we would just absolutely destroy the playroom and have toys everywhere. It's like the classic "a tornado struck" effect. So when playtime would be over, Mom would come in and she would simply tell us, playtime's over. You have 5 minutes to pick up your toys, and when I come back, your toys need to be picked up. So she would leave. And kids kind of play different roles. I was always the goody-goody, and Tyler was, to put it nicely, more of the squirt. And it was his job to kind of push the limit, see how far he could push it. So this ultimatum would be given: pick up the toys. You have 5 minutes, and when I get back, you have to stand in the corner. Dun dun dun. The worst place in the world to stand if you're a kid if they're not picked up. So she would leave and come back, and I would try to encourage Tyler to pick up his toys. I would even try to help, but he didn't want to pick them up. That's just how it was. So consequences, he would have to stand in the corner. So everything would go back to normal after he served his time in the corner, and next playtime would roll back around. And we would destroy the playroom, and toys would be everywhere, and playtime would be over, and Mom would come in, and she would say simply, you have 5 minutes to pick up your toys, and when I come back, they need to be picked up, or you're going to have to stand in the corner. So she leaves and comes back, and toys are everywhere. I'm trying to pick up Tyler's toys, but she can't find Tyler. She has no idea where he is. He's nowhere to be found. He's fled the scene of the crime, so to speak. So she's looking around the room, and she gets to the corner, and there's Tyler. Just nose first, right into the corner. He chose to stand in the corner rather than pick up his toys. It's kind of a funny story. It's humorous that a kid would do that, but it kind of plays a role in today. We're kind of faced with these situations of purity where things don't always work out. We make decisions and things happen. But just like Tyler is now 19 and he's finally learned to pick up his toys. He's matured and he's grown up and he's developed. So should decisions early on in our Christian walk, when we're undeveloped, we haven't matured, we're still trying to push the limits, do those decisions leave us standing in the corner for the rest of our lives? So with this idea of purity, and by that I mean our culture's idea of purity and how it's taken shape, we begin to see that it might be a little skewed. So I wanted to see how that kind of meshed up with our idea and our image of Jesus. Because as Christians, he's kind of our role model. He's the guy that we should strive to be like. Being Christ-like is kind of the definition of being a Christian. So what I did is I went to Google Images and just searched Jesus. Pretty simple. Just to look to see how the images matched up. So as I go online and I'm searching for images of Jesus, scrolling through the pictures, we have some of the classic pictures of him wearing the white robe. He's got the glow around him. He's got the thick beard and the nice flowing hair. He's holding the lamb, teaching to a crowd, or playing with children. But as I'm scrolling down, we come across a contradictory image. One where he's hanging on a cross. One where he's wearing the crown of thorns. He looks bloody and beaten. And those images don't match. There's one thing of perceiving Jesus to be in the nice guy. Our common perception of purity kind of relates, where he's nice and kind and tender, very soft-spoken. But those don't match up when you get to these pictures of him basically beat and tortured. So that's all good and all that, with him being this soft-spoken kind of guy. But there's more to it than just a safeness. There's more to it than just getting by. Because the thing about it is, you're not beaten and hung on a cross and crucified for being a nice guy. So we've gone online and we've been out on the streets and we've kind of gathered this secular view of not only Jesus but purity and kind of how the two go together. And there's obviously some gaps that just the secular view just doesn't hit. So I thought that the next best place to look, and probably the place I should have looked first for the answers, is the Scripture. So dove into the Word and came across a Scripture that kind of hits the nail on the head. And it's 2 Corinthians 7:1, and it reads, "Since we have these promises, dear friends, let us purify ourselves from everything that contaminates body and spirit, perfecting holiness out of reverence for God." Okay, so we have this concept of us purifying ourselves, but it's not just on one level. It's not just our body. It's not just sexual purity. It's body and spirit. It's something that encompasses our whole self. And it also goes on further to say we do this out of reverence for God. We do this for a purpose. Okay, so when we start looking into the meaning of having a purpose, when we start looking at the story of Jesus' life, and the things that he went through, and the roads that he traveled, and the miracles that he performed, we start to see that Jesus lived his whole life for a purpose. He purified his body and his spirit for a purpose. So it kind of seems that purity is kind of being defined here as living out a purpose, and that purpose seems to be nothing else than a spiritual connection, because everything that Jesus did, he did in relation to God. Everything that he went through and he endured, and why he hung on the cross was for God, out of his relationship. And in the Scripture, it talks about when he's hanging on the cross, and just at the moment of death, it says that he gives up his spirit. Okay, it's not that his spirit was taken. It's not that the world ripped it from him. It's not that he wanted to hold on to it. He gave it up because it was his purpose to. That's why he came here, out of his relation for God. So here we are left with this picture of Jesus' life coming to an end on a cross. So we get from the soft glow holding a lamb to hanging on a cross, and the gap, the reason that he gets there is the purpose. So purity kind of comes full circle, and we begin to find it and shape it secularly and biblically as a purpose. So hopefully we've begun to shape purity into something that's more relevant, something that actually applies to our lives. So take a few minutes and look into how we were meant to be with God, and see how relevant purity is to your life.